What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Monday, April 19th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards, but Ja Morant has averaged 33.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. He scored 25, 28, and 31 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 31, 32, and 34 minutes. He's projected at 34.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's $6,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $700 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. I like this pick because he scored 32, 41, 32, and 20 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Nuggets. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 228 points scored in this game. So I like Ja Morant here versus the Denver Nuggets. Another point guard that I like, somewhat of a value play for you here, I like Goran Dragic from the Miami Heat playing the Houston Rockets, who have the 2nd worst defense overall, and they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Goran Dragic has averaged 23.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 39 and 27 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 31 and 22 minutes. Now this is a back-to-back, so it's possible he only gets 25 minutes in this game, but if he does get 30 minutes, he should crush value. But either way, he's projected at 23.7 fantasy points here tonight, and that's already 5.4 times value. He's $4,400 FanDuel salary, and he's $400 more on DraftKings. He scored 18, 27, and 38 fantasy points in the last 3 games versus the Rockets. Vegas thinks there's going to be 216.5 points in this game, so if you think he's going to play 25 minutes or more on this back-to-back, he's got a great matchup. So I like Goran Dragic here versus the Houston Rockets. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have the 2nd worst defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Bradley Beal has averaged 44.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 35% usage rate. He scored 49, 40, and 38 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 34, 42, and 36 minutes. He's projected at 46 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's $8,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $700 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. He scored 32, 49, 33, 48, and 67 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Thunder, and he scored close to or over 40 fantasy points in all of his past 4 games. So he's got a great matchup tonight in a fast-paced game. So I like Bradley Beal here versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Another shooting guard that I like is DeMar DeRozan from the San Antonio Spurs playing the Indiana Pacers, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. DeMar DeRozan has averaged 38.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He scored 50 and 40 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 37 minutes in each of those games. He's projected at 38.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's $7,900 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites. And he scored 34, 27, 30, 27, and 36 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Pacers. So not outstanding player versus team history here. Pretty average there. But Vegas does think there's going to be 232 points scored in this game. So a high-scoring game. So I like DeMar DeRozan here versus the Indiana Pacers. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. Another value play for you. I like Keldon Johnson from the San Antonio Spurs playing the Indiana Pacers, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Keldon Johnson has averaged 25 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He scored 21, 27, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 24, and 24 minutes. He's projected at 24 fantasy points here tonight, and on FanDuel, that's 5.7 times value. He's only $4,200 FanDuel salary, and he's $800 more on DraftKings. So on DraftKings, he'd have to hit 25 fantasy points to get you 5 times value. Totally capable of doing that. He scored 35 fantasy points in his last game versus the Pacers. It's a fantastic matchup, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 232 points scored in this game. So a high-scoring game. So I like Keldon Johnson here versus the Indiana Pacers. Another value play for you. I like Patrick Williams from the Chicago Bulls playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards. But Patrick Williams has averaged 20.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 27, 18, and 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 27, 29, and 27 minutes. He's projected at 19.9 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5 times value. He's $4,000 FanDuel salary and 600 more on DraftKings. So I like Patrick Williams here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like Aaron Gordon from the Denver Nuggets playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing power forwards. Aaron Gordon has averaged 28.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 15, 30, and 23 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 21, 26, and 23 minutes. He's projected at 27.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's $5,100 FanDuel salary and 600 more on DraftKings. So he scored 34, 26, 13, 28, and 36 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Grizzlies. We're just hoping he can get 25 minutes or more, even though I think he can hit value in 20 minutes in this game, especially on FanDuel, where he only needs about 25 to 26 fantasy points to get you 5 times value or more. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 228 points scored in this game, so I like Aaron Gordon here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the position optimizer where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new player trends tool where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, another power forward that I like, another value play here. I like Isaiah Roby from the Oklahoma City Thunder playing the Washington Wizards, who have the third worst defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing power forwards, Isaiah Roby has averaged 21.1 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. He scored 28, 22, and 15 minutes in the last 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 20, 22, and 28 minutes. He's projected at 21.2 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 4,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 800 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Probably won't play him on DraftKings. I'd be looking at a guy like Daniel Tice for only 4,000 over there on DraftKings. But I think Isaiah Roby makes a better FanDuel play. And we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 230 points scored in this game. So I like Isaiah Roby here versus the Washington Wizards. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing centers. But Rudy Gobert has averaged 41.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 55 and 53 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 37 and 33 minutes. He's projected at 43.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 8,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 more on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 214.5 points scored in this game, so I like Rudy Gobert here versus the LA Lakers. Another center I like is Andre Drummond from the LA Lakers playing the Utah Jazz, who have a good defense overall, but they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Andre Drummond has averaged 39.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. He scored 48 and 27 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 30 and 24 minutes. He's projected at 38.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.5 times value. He's 6,900 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. So he scored 48, 52, and 41 fantasy points in his last 3 games versus the Jazz. So if he's going to get close to 30 minutes, I like Andre Drummond here versus the Utah Jazz. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.